people really need to look at their cow base based on the changes that have come around with regards to the Eurostar index and see, has there been a movement as a result of the changes, and what changes, if any, or what breeding strategy you need to have in place through 2024 in order to try and meet the targets under SCEP.
Hello and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc beef podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by cattle specialist Aidan Murray to get an insight into the outlook for the coming year and what farmers can expect. Aidan, you're very welcome and Happy New Year. From the recent Teagasc Outlook Conference, how was 2023 financially overall?
Overall, it wasn't bad, Catherine. Some of the sectors would have struggled a wee bit more than others, but if you take it, the finishing price was up about 3.5% on the 2022 price, which was good, but needed to be because you had higher feed prices, higher fertilizer prices, so the cost structure was high. Equally, the younger store cattle and weanlings actually fared better. They were up 5 to 8% overall, and probably because they're slightly more extensive in terms of systems, you would have seen that they wouldn't have had to carry the same level of costs, and on the suckler side as well, we had the launch of the suckler carbon efficiency program, or SCEP. So some of those payments would have kicked in there towards the end of 2023, which all would have helped output. So by and large, looks the gross margin was up on the single suckling enterprises, and it was back by about 1% on the cattle finishing prices, mainly on foot off the fact that production costs were running slightly higher, even though we did see a bit of a lift in finished cattle prices. And
in comparison to 2022, farmers have seen a minor reduction in the production costs in 2023. What's expected now in 2024 with regard to production costs?
If you look at 2023 versus the second half of the year, when we started to see fertilizer prices ease, and that looks as if it's going to continue, and maybe with a substantially more pace, what I call it, into 2024. So we're looking to see a significant drop in fertilizer prices as we go through 2024. Equally, feed prices were very strong at the start of 2023 and have sort of eased back as we've gone through 23, and should ease slightly, not to the same extent as fertilizer prices will go back, but certainly we would be looking at a continued drop in sort of feed prices as we go on. Also, they're predicting that there will be possibly an easing in the likes of oil prices and energy prices, which will all help with regard to lowering the overall cost structure on farm, irrespective of the systems, and that which will actually be good. It'll help margins overall.
And overall, what do you think the financial outlook for 2024 is looking like?
Well, the prediction is that finished cattle prices will see a slight increase again this year, probably another 3%. And equally, we'll see a similar rise in young cattle prices, even though they were very strong in 2023. We should continue to see a slight increase as we go into 2024, and that the probably driven mainly by the supply issue. If we look at 2022, for example, we would have slaughtered about 1.82 million cattle. That's dropped to about 1.78 million in 2023, and the figures looks as if we could drop by another 40-odd thousand in 2024, which would bring our overall prime kill back to about 1.74 million, and it might actually be slightly less than that, because one of the features of 2023 was we actually had a very strong live export trade where we have exported over 300,000 cattle. And over 205,000 of those were young calves that left the country, which will continue to tighten supplies. So, that would sort of augur well that prices should remain relatively stable or actually quite good for 2024. or there's no massive forecast of beef coming on the global market either, and that in our main market, the UK, their supply looks to be relatively stable again in 2024, and they will obviously have an import demand, and hopefully will be in a position to supply most of that demand, as we have been over the years. So look, our main market looks as if there'll be a demand there. There doesn't seem to be any real increases in global supply coming along. So hopefully that's a good indication that we should have good prices through 2024.
That's great, Aidan. And this time of year, it's a good time for farmers to assess what different schemes that they're involved in and what are the different requirements. What are the key requirements for farmers to keep in mind this spring?
Well, the big scheme is obviously the Suckler Carbon Efficiency Programme, or SCEP, and there's a couple of things to bear in mind there. The first one is you have the flexibility of changing your reference figure on that scheme, and it will be probably the third week of January that the department will open up on ag food and allow that to happen. So basically, if somebody had a reference of 30, and maybe last year for the first year in SCEP decided that, well, I'm going to drop that to 25, they may want to drop it slightly further. So they might want to drop it to 22, for example, in 2024. They can do it at that time, or equally, they may want to go back up to their original 30 that they had. So there'll be about a 4-week window there where you can go in on ag food and adjust it if you need to adjust it. If you don't need to adjust it, they'll take what's currently there, or what you had currently set. So there'll be no work, but your advisors will be notified about it, and you yourselves will also be notified, probably via text message, but it'll probably be about the third week of January before that happens. The other thing, I suppose, to bear in mind is that for the first year, some people may still have survey data to record, and that's so you're talking about calf quality, calf docility, cow milkability, cow mothering ability, and stuff like that. ICBF will have sent you out a little pocket notebook where you'll have been able to record that. But if you haven't completed all the data for calves born between the 1st of July 22 and the 30th of June 2023, you have up until the middle of February to get that in on the system. So you can either put it down on paper, you can record it on ICBF on Herd Plus, just by going into the SCEP tab and record that. And obviously, we're going to be starting in the next few weeks to the first of the spring calvers coming on hand again. So that little notebook is absolutely invaluable. If you're not already signed up with one of the apps on the phone, it's invaluable to record the data as it happens. So the information around the calf birth, calving difficulty, the dam, the sire, and how lively the calf is, what the sort of birth weight relative to the other calves that you have had born on the farm. So that's something that you need to bear in mind, and the other thing that has been very topical towards the end of 2023 is that people really need to look at their cow base based on the changes that have come around with regards to the Eurostar index, and see, has there been a movement as a result of the changes, and what changes, if any, or what breeding strategy you need to have in place through 2024 in order to try and meet the targets under SCEP, because there will be changes for some herds, and you're looking at what breeds you're using and what you can do within those breeds, because most people will probably try and work with the breeds that they've always been working with, which obviously work for them, and use index as best they can around those breeds. So that's fairly important, that they sort of take note of that and put a plan in place as to because it's 25, 26, and 27 that the impact of that'll be felt.
You mentioned there about the survey deadline. That's the first time we've had a survey deadline when you're refer back to farmers that would have previously been in BDGP. So that February deadline is really a key date for farmers to be aware that the surveys have to be submitted by that date.
Yeah, and some people may have their surveys already completed and have been paid on them. But, once you go into ICBF and to Herd Plus, on your home screen, there'll be a bar chart will come up and it'll show you what progress you have made with regards to the animals that you're recording for the first year of the program, and you need to have all those bars filled out in order to make sure that you get your payment, and that's what you have to have completed by the 15th of February.
And there's still a few hundred farmers still outstanding that need to join the Borbia Quality Assurance Scheme in order to comply with the requirements for SCEP, and the deadline for that has been extended till the 22nd of January.
Yes, there was about 1,500 farmers that had signed up to join Borbia by the middle of October 23, but for one reason or another hadn't gone ahead and hadn't done their audit, and so therefore weren't fully signed up members of the quality assurance. They were given a bit of a derogation that provided they signed up by the 22nd of January and were fully signed up to Borbia at that stage as and quality assured, that they would be allowed to continue in SCEP. So there was originally around 1,500 of those farms. At the moment, there's close on half of them already signed up, but for the others that if they don't get signed up by the 22nd of January, the quality assurance is one of those red lines in SCEP that if you don't pass it or you don't join, then the department will write out and tell you that you're no longer in the scheme. So it's something that's important. If you are planning on joining or planning on staying in the scheme, make sure that you get back in contact, make sure that the auditor comes out and does the on-farm inspection with you, and you get your quality assurance. Otherwise, once the 22nd of January comes, the department will be back onto you pretty sharp to tell you that, look, because you're not on quality assurance, you cannot participate in SCEP.
That's great, Aidan. Thanks very much, and very happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Thanks, Catherine.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Aidan for joining me on the show. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan, and thanks for listening.